Okay guys, welcome back to my main channel. I hope you are all having a great day so far, and today we are talking about photography basics, what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, and how to get started on taking some of the most amazing photos that you've ever taken. Let's get right into the video. Wah! Okay, so to begin with, you're obviously going to want to start off with a good camera. Now, having a good camera is one of the most important things that you need. You need a camera that suits you. Obviously, everybody's opinion on cameras is a little bit different. I love my Sony a7 Mark II. You guys heard me talk about it in my last video as well. It is such an amazing camera and I love using it. I love it for photography and I love it for videography because right now we are shooting in 1080p at 60 frames. It takes amazing photos. It has such a dynamic range between a low ISO and a very high ISO depending on what I'm shooting, when I'm shooting it, what my subject is, like everything. It has a mode for everything, and obviously there are beginner steps to taking photos and there are more advanced steps to taking photos. So let's get right to some very basic steps on how to start taking your first photos. Now I'm going to be using my 70D as an example for this tutorial so far. One thing you're going to want to do is grab your just kit lens. So usually when you get a Canon camera, you will always have a kit lens of an 18-55 stabilized, which is perfect. This is my 10-18 on here, which is also stabilized. So I get some more buttery smooth quality footage when I am shooting video, and it's easier to take photos with as well for a beginner. So, obviously one of the most important things to start with when you're taking your just first photos, you're trying to get an initial feel, make sure that you have it set on automatic. So right there, it's setting on automatic, so you have your setup ready to go. It's taking the photo for you. You don't have to worry about the exposure. You don't have to worry about it being overexposed, underexposed. Obviously, you don't have to worry about your ISO. You don't have to worry about your f-stop. All that goes into the exposure, and in turn, part of the composition of the photo as well. On top of that, make sure that you have a good viewfinder. So one of the most common problems that people have when they're starting out is, why do my images always look blurry when I'm taking them to the viewfinder? I can't figure this out. So really plain and simple, there is a little dial right here above the viewfinder in the top corner that allows you to adjust the focal intensity when you were taking the image. So when you're looking through, you see it how crisp it should be based on your actual vision. So everybody's vision is a little bit different, so make sure that you adjust the dial based on your vision and make sure it is in focus for you so that you are getting the image that you want to get. Another really basic thing is, like I talked about in my other video, I don't have it in here, like I talked about in my other video, make sure you guys have a good SD card. One of the most important things that you're going to need is a good SD card based on the photos you're taking. Of course, if you're taking raw images, as a great thing to do to start as well, make sure you have it set up for a RAW and JPEG format. This will ensure that when you're going in afterwards and you want to edit your photos, that you actually have the full resolution of the image instead of just a compressed version in a JPEG format. Every single time that you open a JPEG, you lose just a little bit of quality, and the more and more you open that photo, the quality keeps going down just a little bit more, and it starts becoming more noticeable the more times that you open the photo. This also works the same way when you are sending a photo. Obviously, you want to send it in the highest resolution that you possibly can. Email's only allowed for a certain amount of megabytes to be uploaded to the server. However, when you are uploading a PSD file, a TIFF file, or a RAW file, You are less likely to lose the image resolution as you were if you were exporting it and sending it as a JPEG or a PNG file once it is edited afterwards in Photoshop. Another thing you also want to make sure is you have a UV filter or a protective filter of some sort on your lens. Now the reason that this is so important is because if I drop this camera and I drop it on the lens is significantly less likely to break or get damaged badly or something be off in the lens and not even realize until it's too late when you have this. So if I am not going to, obviously, so if I had dropped this and it hit just about here, if the point of impact was right here, instead of the actual lens cracking, you would hope that this alone would take the impact. So you want to make sure that when you're buying one of these filters, a UV filter or an ND filter, anything like that, that they are glass and they are solid filters. You don't want to have a filter that is plastic. Spend the extra $10 or $15 on a glass protector so you keep this right here, your beautiful, expensive lens, in perfect condition for as long as you possibly can. Now something else I want to add is, of course, other lenses. Now other lenses are very useful. Like I talked about in my last video, I have 2 other lenses that Okay, so right here, like I talked about in my other video, in my gear video, if you have not watched that, make sure you go to my channel and check that out right after you watch this. These are 2 other lenses that I have for the 70D. Now I don't have another lens just yet for my A7. However, you can also buy an adapter. I'll talk about that in another video for another time of how you can convert a Sony camera and also use your other lenses that you already have. Now these lenses are fantastic, they're very versatile, and I highly recommend. So this is the lens that you will start out with. This is perfect for almost every type of just very basic photography. 18 to 55 is going to have a stabilized image on it as well. As you're buying it secondhand and you would just get the original model, then there won't be stabilization on the lens. However, try and spend a little bit more money. Try and get like just a lightly used one. Henry's always has lenses that you can get a better deal on. You will be able to negotiate with them. They're very reasonable. BH Photo is the same way online. I know that for a fact. So if you're ordering from either of these companies, just try to get a better deal. Try to bargain with them just a little bit. You might be able to get a better deal on used lenses as well. They constantly are stocking more used lenses because more people trade them in. So try and get a 10 to 18 like I showed you before. That was not a very expensive lens. However, it has helped me take some of the best landscape photography that I've ever taken. So I highly recommend that you try to get a very wide angle lens, so 10 to 18. So then you have your 18 to 55 as well. So you've got this. And then in the future, try and get yourself a nice telephoto as well. Now this is just a very basic, and when I say basic, I mean incredibly basic telephoto lens from Canon. This is just a stock lens essentially. This is their base model of their telephoto lenses. It's an older version as well, so it's a 4 to 5.6 f-stop, which isn't bad. I can't get shots in as much low light as I want to, so I can't necessarily get this in the best shot of the moon that I wanted to, even if I put the f-stop to a very high number, which I'll talk about in another video, the difference between f-stop, ISO, and how to control your exposure. This is fantastic. I've done sports with this. I love doing action photography with this, and I do recommend it. You are a beginner, you're just starting out, try and find a used one of these. Like these you can find relatively inexpensive. Like I know for a fact that on Henry's website right now you can probably find this for about $100, which is good, like 60 or 70 US. So you've got a lot of options, so make sure you try to grab a telephoto lens as well if you possibly can. Now one last thing that I want to talk about, the most important part of photography is making sure that everything in focus. Like right now, we are in focus and I can get closer and we'll still be in focus. The autofocus on this lens of this camera is fantastic. When you are starting out photography, make sure that you're starting out on just a simple autofocus, kind of get a better feel for the photos that you're taking and all of that. And then take a little bit of step into shooting with some manual settings, just very basic manual settings. See how your camera shoots in manual settings, different lights, and just get an adjustment. Take 100 photos if you have to. Delete them after if you want, or keep them as your nice trials for how you started out taking photos. I guarantee that it will help you a lot, and it's helped me a lot try to get better as a photographer and a videographer as well, because you shoot manual settings later on in videography. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's been fun talking to you about this tutorial and just a very basic beginner's guide to starting to take photos and getting a better feel of what photography is like, and a little bit into videography. We're going to be talking about that next time. I'll be talking about some basic videography tactics that you can use to make sure that you get the best video you possibly can. So I hope you guys all enjoyed, and of course make sure to like, subscribe, and have fun guys. I will see you in the next video. See you guys.